If anyone has any declarations of interest today, let us know. If you think you are going down the track, let us know when that happens. We have no public forum or petitions today. So we'll start with deputations. We have Vicar Mark Sullivan, who is here to speak about item 12, the Heskett Express Major Cycleway, detailed traffic resolutions at Truscott Road. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We won't keep you too long.
Yeah, you guys will be here anyway.
Yeah. Very short.
Sorry, Kieran. Yep.
So you're just waiting for the thing to change.
The clicker's not working. Guys, we might
Go then, please.
need them done.
First of all, I thought I'd just start with some facts. The Anglican Church has been present on the site since 1902. The hall was constructed and used by the parish as a community facility and the vicar's office. In 1927, the 1927, the church was moved from Bridle Path Road to its current site. So we've been there in that position for 98 years. Well, the church has, but the presence has been there for over 100 years. The church is the oldest building in the Heskett Valley, and it's the premises that's been used continually for 165 years. Currently, it's used every day. There are 15 community groups using the facility. The Hedo group is the second largest besides the church, and they use the hall 5 times a week with their mats and everything, and that they have membership of children 5 years and up. The church has its office there. It's used daily, and the church is also used for weddings, funerals, and other things throughout the year. When the council officers discussed with us the proposed cycleway past the church and the changes that was going to be made to the curb and channelling, I'm not sure that we fully understood that that would mean that all that parking would be cut off along Truscott Road. One car park has been left outside the church for funeral parking, but along Truscott Road on the church frontage has been reduced to parks 50 metres from our facility. Parking along Martindale Road is significantly reduced to 2 or 3 parks. That's the other street frontage. We met with the council staff on 2 occasions to discuss the parking situation, and the reply is that the altered cycleway and subsequent roading makes the parking more hazardous, hence why they've put in the lines. Nobody's appreciated the extent of time and the number of people that actually use the church throughout the week. That means considerable walking to use the venue, and while Sunday it's happening there. As I say, the church is actually used more than Sundays. So the recommendations, we'd like the curbing on the south end of Martindale's and Truscott Road has been altered, and that narrows the entrance to Truscott Road from Martindale's Road. So our suggestion is that that because the carriageway is actually reduced by 1 vehicle width, that cars can park along there without impacting upon the road service at all. Cyclists come round there, they don't automatically come round and go straight against the curb. They just carry on down, and because of the altered curb and channeling, which as I say is 1 car width, we'd like the yellow lines on the opposite side of the road from the church, that's along the railway, actually removed, so that we can park there and have access to the church. The best solution for us would be to have all the yellow lines outside the church and the other side of Truscott Road removed. But you know, we think that's fair that there are yellow lines along one side, and we think there is adequate protection for the vehicles that would park along there due to the altered curb and channeling. So the removal of the yellow lines on the opposite side of the road, as far as we're concerned, is a fair and equitable solution, meets us halfway with you folk. So we respectfully request that you give this matter your meeting. Very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. Have we got any questions of Mark?
None for me.
Would you be happy if we left this item on the table and asked our staff to have further discussion with you on this?
Absolutely. One thing I would ask is that if we are going to leave it on the table, that sort of put on traffic parking wardens going along and giving people tickets that are using that that area, especially on the other side of the road. The reason being, we have a lot of elderly people that actually use that facility, and there was some disappointment that tickets were given to people that are using the hall. But as I say, the yellow marks were there, and people disobey them. I suppose that's at their own peril. But if you give it some consideration, that'd be really cool. How long it takes, well, leave that over to you. Make it legitimate.
Thank you for
The bus stop get changed back on Martindale's.
Well,
Did it get shifted in the end?
the bus stop was actually moved right outside the church, and then was moved forward.
We did shift it back. We did move it,
It
didn't we?
did move forward,
Yeah.
but the buses stopped where the old one was because it's not clearly defined on the road.
We need to fix that.
Well, I think that you've done your part as far as moving. I think it's more the bus drivers actually stopping the bus stop. Yeah, the bus stop was moved from its original position to outside the church, and we spoke to Councillor Templeton, and she had it moved for us back to its original position. There still is only two or three car parks there outside the church anyway. Of course, the other thing is for the council to move in and put a new car park in for us on our premises. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, we now have Reverend Richard Waller to talk to us about item 5, the National Erebus Memorial. Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Philip Major, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to share. I'm Richard Moore. I'm an airline historian and a long-time aviation chaplain since 1998, and current president of the Aviation Historical Society of New Zealand, which was founded here in Christchurch in 1958. I spent a number of years initiating memorials for airliner accidents in New Zealand. There were 9 airliner accidents in 1938 on scheduled services, 1938 to 1963, Kamai accident, 73 New Zealanders were killed. So myself and others spent a long time working on those. Out of that came the obvious question, why wasn't there an Erebus National Memorial where the 257 names could be in a public place? So I commenced and instigated the memorial project from January 2016. It's only 10 years ago, this coming January. And we thought, in fact, that gave 4 years to the 40th anniversary of 2019. So I spent the first 2 years advocating to members of parliament and the government until the project was finally accepted by the government, budget approved, and for what is still New Zealand's worst civil disaster. I've worked closely with the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, including on all the Auckland sites, and I could write a book about the Auckland sites and what's happened there. It seems to me, after lengthy investigations, that there are no suitable sites available in Auckland. And assuming that's the case, then Christchurch, to my mind, is an appropriate venue for many reasons, including, of course, Christchurch is the gateway for Antarctica, and that the city has an Antarctica consciousness and profile like no other New Zealand city. As you know, Flight TE901 was due to land here on its return from Antarctica. 53 passengers were due to disembark at Christchurch International Airport. And it was at Christchurch Airport that waiting relatives and friends were told of the overdue DC-10. I have 3 particular relevant matters which you may not be aware of that I want to share. One is that Auckland does have the memorial at the airport to the 20 crew who were all Auckland based, and the memorial at Waikomete Cemetery. I was in West Auckland for many years, The memorial at Waikimete Cemetery is to the 44 victims whose remains were not identified or not recovered from Antarctica. First. Second, the Lockheed Orion and the Hercules aircraft, both now preserved at the Air Force Museum, were aircraft types used in the search and the recovery work for the Mount Erebus accident. The Hercules 01 was one of the aircraft used for body return to Whenuapai. In fact, the route was Whenuapai, Christchurch, McMurdo, Whenuapai. So the eventual public display of these two very large aircraft, and Council's been very supportive of that, I think will provide another tangible link, local link, to the accident, and especially those in operation overdue. My third point is that the DC-10, after leaving Auckland, followed waypoints over New Plymouth and Nelson, and then to the radio beacon at Mount Mary, just to the east of Lake Pukaki. And the flight from Nelson would have taken the DC-10 to the west of Christchurch, near the Alps, and I understand it would have been possible for the aircraft to have been seen in the distance from the Kashmir Hills, and not long before it left New Zealand for the last time. So I commend the Council's willingness and welcome. The nature of the welcome is very important for the Erebus family members, for the memorial to be in Christchurch. And speaking from a pastoral perspective, I know many members, the sooner the memorial can be built, the better. And many of those family members directly affected, of course, are getting older. So there's an increasing pastoral urgency. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Got a couple of questions. Tyler and Sharon.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for coming in. I just wanted to hone in a bit on the tangibility of the location. I'm sort of in the dark around why Auckland wasn't an appropriate place for the memorial. Would you be able to?
Well, Auckland was the first priority for memorial. Understanding with the ministry, as others can speak more in more detail than me, but about 36 sites have been investigated, including with some protest action by some. So it's become very difficult. I also understand the Mayor in Auckland and the Council are not supportive.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
And Sarah, and a lot of this will be explained by Duncan in there.
Yeah. So we've had some concerns expressed by some members of the families who are concerned that if we go ahead off the site, that it will give Auckland the excuse to say no, and that they'd prefer us to say no to put more pressure on Auckland, if that makes sense. How do you see that kind of thing playing out?
Sounds like local body politics to me.
You know, we've learned over the years here in Christchurch that actually working with the families is crucial for those kind of.
Well, my understanding from the media is you have heard from some family members. The Erebus family group is a very large group, so 257 victims. You can imagine it's like a pyramid. There are thousands of people. There are Erebus people. Some of them are very articulate, and some I understand who have contacted each of you were part of the group that protested at Parnell.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is difficult. I don't want to diminish anyone's. We have a national memorial here for the youth play. A large number of families involved. So those are things that
You can ask your question when Duncan gets up to do his, please. Yep. Okay. So thank you very much, Richard, for coming in. And
Thank you, Richard.
so just before Duncan gets up to talk about that, I'll just let everyone know that I bought items 7 and 8 straight the development contributions papers straight after the Erebus one. So far away, please, Duncan.
Mayor, councillors, good morning. Here to present a report recommending that council offers Craycroft Reserve to the Ministry of Culture and Heritage as a potential site for the National Erebus Memorial. First of all, I'd like to introduce the team who has been working on this. First of all, there's Cecile Delarue, there's Tessa, and who you'll both who you know, but someone who you won't know is Jeff Gibson from the Ministry of Culture and Heritage. We also work closely with Whiti Ora, who have sent their apologies to be unable to be with us in the group today. It's important to begin by acknowledging that many Erebus families continue to hold a strong preference for the memorial to be in Auckland. That is where the original commitment was made, and that desire remains clearly understood and respected by us. However, due to prolonged delays in securing a viable site in Auckland, MCH has been exploring alternative locations. Christchurch, with its strong Antarctic connections and culture of remembrance, offers a meaningful and respectful option. The offer we are proposing today is not intended to replace Auckland, but rather to provide the ministry and families with a viable alternative should Auckland prove no longer feasible. It is an offer made with care and respect, and it's one that reflects our city's commitment to honouring the memory of those who were lost and to welcoming Erebus families with dignity and compassion. The project team considered 3 strategic options for supporting the ministry in identifying a suitable location for the memorial. First one being offering a single site, which in this case is Craycroft Reserve, to provide clarity and focus to the ministry, the families and the wider community. Secondly, it was offering 2 sites. This approach would allow greater flexibility, but would introduce additional complexity and potential delays. And then finally, there was not offering a site at all. This option was ruled out as inconsistent with the council's values and commitment to supporting a nationally significant problem. Through a robust assessment process involving council, mana whenua, and the ministry, 3 sites in Christchurch emerged as the strong candidates for the memorial. Craycroft Reserve in Cashmere, a tranquil, elevated site with expansive views across the city and towards the Southern Alps. It offers strong experiential and cultural qualities and is well suited to both quiet reflection and ceremonial gatherings. Visiting the site makes its suitability for the memorial immediately apparent. Craycroft Reserve is recommended as preferred site due to its character, amenity, accessibility and support from mana whenua. Secondly, there is the Otakaro Avon Riverbank in the central city. Located in the heart of Christchurch near existing memorials, this site offers high visibility and accessibility as well as a link to Antarctic heritage. However, it presents greater planning complexity due to heritage sensitivities, flood risk and the potential for adjacent future development. And finally, there is the St James Church grounds in Harewood. This is a privately owned site with potential but requiring further investigation. While included in the assessment, it is not recommended at this stage due to uncertainties around ownership and access. I'd like to circle back to the families. As you can see in the report and indeed in media stories, there are a range of views on where the memorial should be located. Many of you will have received correspondence from family of an Erebus victim expressing deep concern about the potential offer of Craycroft as a site for the memorial. This email is heartfelt and reflects the enduring pain and frustration many families feel after decades of delay and continued disappointment. It's important that we recognise the emotional gravity of this issue. The Erebus tragedy, as we have heard, remains New Zealand's most significant peacetime disaster. The absence of a national memorial for nearly 46 years is understandably distressing for those affected and clearly unacceptable. The concerns raised, particularly around perceived disconnect between the preferences of families and our recommendation of Craycroft, deserves thoughtful reflection. However, I want to reassure you that our approach has been guided by a commitment to transparency and respect. The report provided to you includes the results of the family survey, ensuring that the voices of those most impacted are heard and considered. It also sets out the advantages and disadvantages of both Craycroft and the Avon River site, allowing you to weigh all the relevant factors, including site suitability, accessibility, and alignment with the ministry's requirements. While Craycroft has been recommended, this is not a final decision. The offer is structured to remain open for 12 months, giving NCH time to continue to engage with families and work for their concerns. This flexibility is a deliberate and respectful gesture to ensure that families are not excluded from the process. Ultimately, our role is to offer a site, not to decide whether or where a site whether or where a memorial will be built. That responsibility rests with the ministry in consultation with the families. What we can do is ensure that our offer is made in good faith, with compassion, and with a clear understanding of the complexities involved. Regardless of the ultimate location of the memorial, it is our strong desire that each and every family member and member of the Operation Overdue team will always be welcomed here in Otatahi. I welcome your questions and discussions on the proposal and look forward to your guidance on how we can best support this nationally significant memorial.
Thank you, Duncan. That's very clear, and I'd just like to thank Duncan and the team for all the work you've done with the ministry and to get this very sensitive issue worked on. So I'm more than happy to move this, and Tim is more than happy to second it. So we'll put it out for any questions, and the first one I have is Aaron.
I was going to signal happy to move as well, so just supporting you, Mr. Mayor.
You, no?
So I've got 3 questions. First one is, as a city, do we typically consult the general public of Christchurch about memorials, like, for example, the one for the earthquakes along the river?
Yeah, just in terms of Oimanawa, memorial, that one process was similar to this. A report was brought to council. And the site was identified and the process followed. It wasn't full consultation for that site. There was the recovery context at that time as well.
So was it a process with the families involved?
Yeah, a comprehensive process with families, and similar to this, there was a process followed for site selection. So the criteria were identified with the families, as it's been done in this case, and then a range of suitable sites identified. And that one was then selected and identified to be developed. The key thing is the targeted engagement, which in this case has been initiated with the site.
So sorry, I've got a secondary question from that, because if you, in the report, it talks about public opposition to some of the sites that have been in Auckland. So has that come through a process of consultation that Auckland Council's done, or was that just something that's happened as a result of this being known by the public?
It's difficult for us to answer the details of that, so we'll just do this to you.
Support. Morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. It's a complex answer to your question in some ways, because there was, going back over a period of years, quite a lot of consultation in different forms. But of course, you only when you get to a point of knowing a specific site that some stakeholders come forward that perhaps weren't aware or didn't perhaps have the stronger views until it was potentially going to happen within the vicinity of their space of interest.
Second question is, with the families and that want to see this in Auckland, do they accept that there are no, we're being told that there's no viable sites in Auckland, and the Auckland Council is saying that they can't find anything. Are the families who want it in Auckland, do they agree with those, or do they have, I just don't quite understand. I mean, I know we're doing an open sort of offer, but I just want to understand a bit more why they don't want it here and they must see some sites up in Auckland that are viable.
As you can see from the amount of work that's been involved even to get to this point of identifying sites and doing all the checks and things that are necessary, and that's everything from cultural, it's about a particular site or right through to technical consideration. So there are a lot of complexities around identifying any site. But I think stepping back from that, as I think was noted in the report, we've looked since the original site which we had to withdraw from, which is the Dunmire Robinson Park in Auckland. We've looked at approximately 50 different sites in Auckland since then. 37 we looked at in some detail, and we couldn't make sufficient progress on some of those, so we expanded our search again, at the point at which we also then started conversations about was Christchurch a viable option. Auckland is a very complex authorising environment, let alone engagement with communities. So because of the layers of governance that exist in Auckland, yes, you have Central Auckland Council, of course you have a number of local boards, there are a number of iwi who have interests right across that area. So, you know, there are a lot of conversations before you even get to a point of potentially going to public consultation, if that's required as well.
Sorry, I've got to follow on from that. So we talked with iwi here.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and then the last one, I just I think it does make sense to offer probably the two most popular sites if we're going to do an open offer to those families and for ministry to work through. It would make sense to make it as many viable options that seem, you know, supported as possible in my view. Any comments?
Well, as I said in my preliminary is that is an option.
Yeah.
Offering to, there's definitely a viable option, but it does add a level of complexity for the ministry to then navigate that with families, as opposed to one which provides a greater degree of certainty that this is a site that has been clearly identified and been through a process.
Mark, please.
Thank you. We heard from our earlier speaker about the fact that over currently resides at the Air Force Museum was used with the recovery. Was there any consideration given to perhaps having a contemplated space for the National Memorial built at the Air Force Museum?
Yeah, 100%. It is that was definitely that was investigated by the team, and there are many good reasons why it could be there, such as you've spoken about and what Richard said earlier. But one of the key criteria for the memorial is for it to have its own meaning, and for it to be, if it was located at the Air Force Museum out of Wigram, there was concerns that it would struggle to establish its own identity in an Air Force Museum construct. And secondly, similar to the issues that happened with the suggestion that the memorial will be at Putiahu, that is the National War Memorial, and we're talking here about the worst civil disaster versus the worst military disaster.
Yes, I was speaking to Brett Marshall yesterday, and he is more than happy to host any of the families at any time.
That's great. Thank you, Mark.
Sarah, please.
Well, thanks so much. Just going back a little bit to that engagement with the families over these sites, and wondering about the shortness of the length of time of 9 days, when I know how much longer the process was for example, Waimanawa. And I'm just wondering if there was the opportunity to spend some more time with the families, actually get people down here to have a look at the site ahead of a decision being made. It seemed like that was a very short time after a lot of other work had been done.
Councillor Templeton, if I can just talk on the first part of that, and I'll let Jeff speak on the second part of it, is I hear you loud and clear on that. The reason why the delay or why the time has been compressed is that we wanted to bring this to this council. This council has been on the journey with us of identifying a site and the rationale of why we wanted to offer a site from the briefings that we've had, and due to the support that was indicated to me in those briefings, that is why we wanted to bring it to this council in this term. So that's why that was truncated. We believe, that's the council team believe and agree with you, that more time needs to be given to the families to be able to look at this. Hence the reason why we are recommending a 12-month period for that to happen. But I'll throw it to Jeff from the ministry's perspective, who actually owns the relationship with the families.
Yes, so just a couple of comments about that shortest time. Yes, that was part of it, to make sure we got as much information as we could to get a picture of all the technical side of those sites as much as the feedback of families. Was that a short period of time relative to the previous one? Yes, it was. What I would say is that for the reason we were able to allow a longer period in the survey of the relating to the 12 Auckland one site in Auckland was we held open over Christmas, and we were able to provide people with more time. But what we did do, whilst we did allow for the 9 days, we also ensure that people who potentially struggle with that time frame, we made the offer to talk to us, and that we would accommodate any views that they wanted to have as well.
Okay, and the question for you again is, why would 2 sites not be preferable if you're going to engage with the families more? If we offered the 2 sites, so Craycroft and the Avon River, then it would give the families chance to look at both of them, knowing that both had an offer from the council, and giving the families more time rather than coming down here and seeing one to sort of make up for that other. How would that be?
From a technical, it's not our report.
No, but Duncan did say that, you know, it would make it easier for you if there was only one. I'm just thinking about the families and giving them the opportunity to look at multiple sites.
Based on the experience we've had, particularly in Auckland, obviously, it sometimes is better to have more than one site, because there are various things that can occur, not just as consultation happens or other technical things that get thrown up. So my personal view, and that's all it is, so apologies for that, is that it is better to have more options in a broad sense. Now, whether that's the case here, I guess that's for...
In that case, I'd like to foreshadow a motion that we offer both Craycroft and the Avon River sites.
I'll second that.
Thanks.
Yeah, just that.
Okay, right, sorry, Tyler, please.
I'm not sure good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, I understand the complexities around site selection. We've spent some time on that, and thank you for taking some time to try and explain that to us. But I'm going to ask a really direct question, because I'm still trying to get my head around some of the stakeholder concerns in Auckland. So was there an element of not in my backyard from stakeholders in Auckland? And are we seeing that here in Christchurch as well? Because no one's mentioned that. I'm still struggling to understand some of the stakeholder concerns. You've talked about the governance aspects of that, but what else was that we're missing here?
I can't talk about Auckland. Jeff might be able to make some comments on that, but from our preliminary targeted engagement, especially around Craycroft, it has been extremely welcome. The initial conversations that we have had with the Friends of Craycroft couldn't have gone any better. The chair and members have been extremely supportive. Yes, I don't know if you've got any more comments you want to make on that.
I think, to be fair on Auckland, at this point, we had the benefit of perhaps being able to learn from previous, I don't want to say mistakes, but just learn lessons. And we were able to engage those most affected community members really early, so before any decisions had been made. And I think that came across as a very genuine approach. And I think in Auckland, potentially that wasn't an opportunity that they had. Yeah.
Thank you. Duncan, I know you've been living and breathing this for some time. Is there anything in particular about the Craycroft Reserve that puts this over and above Avon River for you?
So that's a good question. my initial suggestion for a site location was the Avon Riverbank. And I'd never heard of the Craycroft Reserve. I thought it was somewhere down the bottom of the hill, and found out that it was actually in front of the site of the Takahe. So I went up there, and it's almost a revelation as you walk up and you see it. It's like, oh my goodness, this is where the memorial should be. It just had that sense. It spoke to me. And I think I can speak for colleagues that it had a similar effect. So that is what, along with the other points that we talked about the some of the uncertainty from a heritage perspective of the Avon River site and future development around there, what gave Craycroft the edge for me personally, and I think spoke to the wider assessment team.
So am I hearing that it's something that you feel rather than you can put in writing?
It's hard to, I was accused of being patronising to families and how it was described, but that was not the intention. It really is quite a revelation when you get there and you look.
So the final question, recognising that this is just an offer, and it's been suggested in the earlier questions that by making the offer it takes the pressure off Auckland and they'll no longer work hard to find a site. Is it possible that the reverse could also be true? That we've got one on the table that could be ready for the families, and it will put further pressure on them to work through their differences and find a site.
I think that's potentially true. It could go either way, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jack, please.
So the opposition in Auckland, do you think it's fair to characterise it as not enough support for a particular site? More mission and support for the site.
Do with a particular site.
Sure. So it's not that the Auckland Council per se don't want the Erebus Memorial in their city.
No,
It just can't work through the detail.
and just to be clear, so the previous process by which a number of sites were identified in Auckland led to. So there was active involvement from the central part of council, if I can put it that way. When we went back to them to talk about having to restart the process, they were just in the process. I live in Auckland, so includes me. We're in the process of having to deal with the aftermath of the cyclones and the devastation that they caused, and they simply didn't have the time or capacity to make the role. So we took that lead with some external help, and did some of those sites with council because, of course, most of them are in public spaces.
Thank you. Second question is, did I hear you correctly say that you had 50 and then now currently you've still got 37 potential sites?
No, sorry, that was not explaining myself well. So we went through a formal process where we identified 37 sites and went through a similar, as you could have seen evidence of here. But because we weren't making any progress, or if they got a smaller number, various things came up and decision makers or landowners or others didn't feel as though they could support it. So we expanded that to include more sites that we had been suggested to us in Auckland, but we've not been able to land any of those. Hence us having to think about, well, if we can't find somewhere, and particularly given the timeframes that we're concerned about in terms of families and Operation Open Gym, and we felt it was appropriate to at least have a conversation about Christchurch.
Thank you. Probably a final question, although there may be four to be is consultation from here is, if we say yes today, put the offer or offers, what happens in terms of consulting our public? I'm just cognizant we haven't had a conversation with our ratepayers and citizens yet.
So from today, if you were to decide on those two sites, particularly around the Craycroft Reserve, which is in a residential area, I would continue to slowly work my way around the community. I'm taking a really hands-on approach to this one. I think that the personal approach is required because of the gravity of what you're deciding on. So yeah, I would continue to do that. And then any future decision that lies with MCH about building an actual memorial, at that time we'll assess what further consultation is required from our internal policies, consenting requirements and legislation.
Okay. I guess that leads to the fourth question is, could we end up in a situation exactly like Auckland? What is different about what we're proposing to do to what they have done before again and again?
The preliminary conversations that we have had are far more positive.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say our focus has been on finding champions within the community so that they become, in a way, the spokespeople for welcoming this memorial into their community, which I think would be much more powerful.
Thank you. Thank you, Tessa. I'm real keen to move this on. We have one more, there's only one more question that I'll allow, and that's Sarah. Sarah, you're up. That's right. And then we'll go into debate if we want to.
I was just like a process thing, just whether it was easier to, rather than doing it as a foreshadowed motion, which would mean a vote would have to fail, to just add those words in as an amendment, as we vote on it as an amendment, then if that fails, it's just down to the one, so we're never voting against potentially.
Sorry?
Seeking to consider putting two options on, that would be even easier.
And just by process wise, rather than a foreshadowed, whether we're able to do it as an amendment, like process wise.
From the team that have done all the work and done all their consultation is one side. That's your recommendation.
No, we've got something on the table, don't we?
Yes, yes, we do.
Based on the new information that we've had today from the deputation and from representative from the ministry, is that more options would actually be better, and that the families.
See, I think
Just now.
said more options would be better.
Just now.
Clarify, so, and I'm trying to remain a good objective public servant. Our experience has been I was trying to make it a broad point, not specific to here, which is that because there are various things that can occur to the site, even if it's identified as being a front run, let's say, that can cause it not to be able to proceed. So my experience thus far has been it's sometimes better to have more options than not.
My concern is also because the families haven't had a chance to compare sites and see the revelation that Duncan had. That with the opportunity to check out both and then come to their own decision about Craycroft hasn't been possible because it's just been that short 9 days.
I don't want to be difficult, but I'm wondering whether this needs our organisation and the ministry, because I heard earlier on the ministry say, my personal view is that more sites would be better, which is different to the advice we've got. I actually think we just need to probably park it for a bit and come back because it's.
So people come to the table.
I'm just.
Can I just clarify? That was just my personal view.
Which I guess what I'm saying is that's
the position is aligned with.
Yeah. So probably just because I'm just unclear as to what's being offered from the government versus the organisation. I think it would be.
If I could clarify that for you, Councillor McDonald. We are offering a site. It may be that you decide it's 2 sites. As I said in answer to Councillor Templeton's question, both are viable options. But we have to put forward a recommended course of action. And our recommended one is a single site. If you decide that it's 2 sites, that is a viable course of action from staff's perspective.
Nothing to us.
Okay, we'll do debate.
Yeah, so do you want to change
Take a
your
At the moment, I have to say I'm reluctant to do 2, but I'll be open to the table to make it smooth, so.
But there's nothing stopping Sarah from having an amendment, is there? Like procedurally?
She says,
So why don't you just put it forward as an amendment?
It's nice to be able to.
Yeah,
So we
doesn't set a good precedent for the process.
let's do the procedural thing. When the seconder had been asked if they're happy to amend their motion. Phil has said he is, and Tim has said he is.
actively,
No, we just put it forward as 2, so everything vanishes, okay?
Yep.
Right, so you got questions?
Process on this process that we're going through, because the 3 are still in the report, my question would be, and it is to Duncan, although you're putting one forward, if something comes up along the way, are the other two then still in the mix? Because they're all.
Not worry.
We have to have a new council decision.
We'd have to come back to you for your.
Right, we've done enough questions. We're into debate, and the first one is Tim.
Thank you. As the councillor of the Kashmir area where Craycroft Reserve is in, I've been talking to a number of community members who have rung and talked to me about concerns. There were never any concerns about the support for it. It was about its ability to connect with the local community when it's being designed, and they wanted to support the families because they think the majority have felt that it has been almost disrespectful to the families, the process, and to each other, etc. So they wanted to make sure it was always welcoming, which is really important. I'm meeting on Friday with the chair of Friends of Craycroft, who is totally, and their organisation is absolutely in support of this. And they asked me to pass on to Tess, especially to thank her for what she's done with them. But truly, when you are standing at Craycroft Reserve and you are looking across Christchurch and you see Alps and you can name all of the peaks and you see the planes coming in, landing and taking off. And at night you can see them. I'm there most days. It's an absolute privilege. As Duncan said, it is a truly special place. It's a shame we didn't get up there, some of you, to see it and understand the difference between that and the other two areas that were put forward, because the connection is probably what the flight could have seen as it was passing Christchurch to the west. As Richard, that you see the city, you see the hills, you see all of that. There is a connection there, different to the other two sites. It's chalk and cheese for me. And it is truly wonderful to have that support from the community and from the Friends of Craycroft and from our community board when it was brought to us. So thank you. I'm totally in support of it. I would have preferred Craycroft as the only option, but I will open up and accept too. Thank you.
Thank you. Cal?
Yeah, look, I'm really happy to support this offer. You know, it seems like in a vacuum of indecision, you know, people with heart who care about this want to step up, and I really do want to commend Duncan and the team for the work that they've done. I've a bit of a personal connection as well. I was in school at the time of the Erebus tragedy, and my geography teacher, Mike Preble, was the leader of Scott Base at the time. And when he came back to school, he used to talk with great gravity about the situation. He was in the first helicopter onto the site and talked about the complexities and the whole tragedy, and really gave the boys at our school a real sense of what had happened and how tragic it was. So I think this is wonderful that we're offering to honour the memory of all those people. And, you know, I think it's difficult sometimes when there's too many choices. I mean, you see just what's gone on around here in discussing this and that, one site, two site, how difficult it is to get a lot of people to agree on something. So I'm glad we're moving this forward, and I'm very happy to support it.
Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm happy to support this based on conversations I've had with Duncan prior to this, around this. You know, one of the offers was in Hereward. If the hill falls over, more than happy for it to come in there. That church have been looking for a use for that land. It's across the road from a cenotaph, which has a dawn service every single year. So there's a lot of reflection in the area. It makes perfect sense, and you've got the walkway right there through to the airport. So there is a great connection out there. Christchurch has a fantastic connection to Antarctica. So happy to support what the staff have come up with based on what Duncan's told me. But if any issues pop up along the way, more than happy to revisit Hereward if need be.
I want to thank Duncan and his staff for all your efforts. You came to the community board to talk to us about this, and we were, you know, they were very happy to hear what you had to say, and very supportive of offering Craycroft Reserve, like Tim said, it is incredibly beautiful. I used to live up there and used to walk up there quite often. And it is an incredible site when you go to it. But I would really like to support the two sites. I'm pleased it's been added in, and that's for two reasons. One is because of what it's got in our paper about more people supporting the Avon site. I do think they should have of those families, I think they should have the choice. I think if we're going to have an open offer, it just needs to be an offer that they can choose between, rather than saying, here's one site for you, take it or leave it. I think if we're going to be quite genuine about it, we'll let them come and take their time. So I'm happy to support this today.
Sarah?
At the heart of all this are the families and the victims of that tragedy. And I'd like to thank our staff in the ministry for doing a huge amount of work on that, you know, the site selection, the offer staff. The only thing that I have any qualms about is that truncated time with the families, just 9 days. And it was done with best of intentions, but to fit a political time frame rather than with the family that much. And so that's why I'm really keen for the families to be able to visit and to experience both of those sites along the river, up on the hill, to see that stunning view out across the Alps. And yeah, that was just my only reason there. It's just that truncated time with the families who need to do that. I really hope, for the family's sake, that having two genuine offers here actually does kick Auckland into gear, because that is where the families would really like it. And I really hope that that's what happens, so that we are here if they need us.
Mark, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Duncan and team, for all your work on this. I know it's been done with the utmost respect for the families. And I think from all of us on the council here today, we're, you know, very respectfully coming up with this offer to hopefully become part of a solution, or at the very least, be the sand in the oyster that might get into action, actual outworking of it. I think it's great today that we've looked at the idea of offering up two sites that I think respects the families' desires and wishes. And I concur with Councillor Templeton that it would be great for the families of the victims to be able to come and experience for themselves the genuine, also, I'll throw into the mix that Brett Marshall, the director of the Air Force Museum, is personally happy to escort any of the families through to see the Hercules 01, which was part of that saga back in the day. So there are some genuine connections for Christchurch to be offering this up, and hopefully it's taken in the right lights by the families that we are just wanting to honour and respect.
Well, I mean, it's a issue, and I'm speaking to the contrary anyway. Look, I'm not going to support this today. I'm not across the line on it yet. I'm not going to vote against it. I'll abstain, and it's no indictment of the work that the team have done. I think it's actually remarkable that it's unnatural on the face of it. We're not the natural seeming home of this memorial, can garner so much support around the table and amongst the community as a testament to the wonderful work you guys have done. And as we move forward, I like to think that the next decision point, I can be more supportive. But at the moment, I'm just not that. I worry that the Christchurch, the pride we have for the city, is perhaps clouding our judgment when it comes to what is most appropriate. I'm also concerned that, exactly as Councillor Templeton mentioned before, that we're perhaps handing an opportunity for Auckland to not do their duty, essentially. But with considering the point that Victoria made, perhaps it'll have the opposite effect and actually encourage them to do what they should do and have some courage. So, yeah, that's it from me today.
Okay. And me lastly, about 10 months ago, I suppose, Mary, Duncan and I met with the ministry, and it was sort of it was an offer of help, because they were sort of going around in circles up in Auckland, and for one reason or another, it doesn't matter. And we just thought that if we can do any offer or any solution to make it better for the families. So I would have preferred, I've been to both places, I would have preferred, and I've looked at the disadvantages of in town, but to get this across the line, to actually go ahead and offer 2 sites for Christchurch is, and we are happy with it. I know Duncan's team's done a lot of work with mana whenua on Craycroft, but not so much on the middle of town. So we've back to square one if it gets to that point. So I just hope the families like what we're offering and come down and spend as much time. And as Tim said, go up to Craycroft for a starter and see how nice and quiet it is. But to offer 2 is probably a good way through it. So I'll certainly be supporting it. So I'm going to put this motion, which is right behind me, which has got both of them on there. All of those in favour?
Aye.
Against? And Kate, you're abstaining. Okay, thank you very much. That's carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you.